For a long time, humanity looked up at the stars and assumed that if we found other planets out there, they would probably look a lot like our own solar system. A few rocky worlds near the sun, a few gas giants further out, maybe some ice and dust. It all seemed so orderly. But out there, past the orbit of Neptune, past the edge of our familiar cosmic neighborhood, the universe is not friendly. The cosmos is a place of unbelievable violence, crushing forces, and conditions that completely defy our everyday human imagination. Thanks to space telescopes staring at the tiny dips in starlight as planets cross in front of them, we've discovered thousands of exoplanets in just the last few decades. And let's just say, many of them aren't just uninhabitable, they are waking nightmares. We're talking about worlds where nature has gone completely insane, where the very concepts of rain, air, and nighttime are twisted into forms that could only exist in the deepest circles of cosmic hell. Today, we're counting down the absolute scariest planets we have ever found. They make any horror movie look like a Saturday morning cartoon. Let's start at the beginning of this cosmic nightmare list. First up, we have HD 18933b. If you were looking at it through a spaceship window, you'd think, hey, that doesn't seem so bad. It's a pretty deep azure blue marble, just like Earth. But here's the deal. Don't let the calming colors fool you. This isn't the color of deep oceans or a clear, breathable sky. It's the color of impending instantaneous destruction. This world is what astronomers call a hot Jupiter. It's a massive gas giant, but unlike our Jupiter, it's parked right next to its host star. And when I say next to, I mean it orbits so closely that a single year on this planet takes just over 2 Earth days. This insane proximity whips the atmosphere into a frenzy that Earth weather can only dream of. The winds on this planet move at up to 7,000 kilometers per hour. That's over 7 times the speed of sound. A wind that strong wouldn't just blow a building over, it would vaporize the very molecules of anything standing in its way. But that's not even the scariest part. The context of that wind is the real killer. We know its color by using spectroscopy, a technique where scientists break down the light coming from the planet into a sort of chemical barcode. That barcode told us that the atmosphere is deeply saturated with silicates. Silicates are essentially the exact microscopic ingredients that make up sand and glass. The heat is so intense that these silicates condense in the atmosphere, but the wind is so fast that this isn't a normal rainfall. It's a horizontal blizzard of molten glass. Imagine stepping into an industrial sand blaster, but the sand is made of sharp diamond dust, and the blaster is blowing completely sideways at thousands of miles per hour. This is a planet of supersonic killer glass rain. Now let's look into the void. The next planet on our list doesn't look like much of anything. In fact, that's its terrifying superpower. This is TRES 2b, and it holds the record as the single darkest planet ever discovered in the known universe. This gas giant is blacker than charcoal, blacker than acrylic paint, and even blacker than Vantablack. It reflects less than 1% of the starlight that hits it. To give you an idea of how insane that is, a fresh piece of coal still reflects about 10% of light. So we've got layers of weirdness here. You might be tempted to jump to the fringe sci-fi explanations. Is it an alien megastructure cloaked in stealth technology? A cosmic camouflage hiding a civilization in the dark? Let's bring it back to reality, which is honestly just as strange. Scientists believe this absolute darkness is due to exotic atmospheric physics. Unlike Jupiter, which has highly reflective clouds of ammonia, TRES 2b is too hot for those clouds to form. Instead, its atmosphere is likely choked with vaporized chemicals like gaseous sodium, potassium, and titanium oxide. These elements are incredibly efficient at swallowing photons of light. It's a cosmic black hole of visibility. But the scariest part isn't just the dark, it's that it's a burning dark. The planet sits incredibly close to its star, meaning the air temperature is estimated to be over 1100 degrees Celsius. Even though it's blacker than night, this planet is hotter than fresh lava. If you were floating nearby in a spacecraft, you wouldn't just see a black void. Because of the extreme heat, the planet actually emits an eerie, faint, dim red luminescence. Think of the glowing red heating coil of an electric stove that has been left on high in a pitch-black room. It's a burning, pitch-black oven.
Okay, let's escalate the weirdness to an industrial, heavy metal scale. We're visiting WASP 76b. This is another massive hot Jupiter, but it's got a very unique, very deadly meteorological problem. This planet is tidally locked. This is a gravitational phenomenon where a planet's rotation perfectly matches its orbit, meaning the exact same side always faces its star, and the other side is locked in eternal, freezing night. It's exactly how the same side of our moon always faces Earth. On the day side of WASP 76b, the star beats down relentlessly, driving temperatures up to a sickening 2,400 degrees Celsius. That heat is so powerful that it doesn't just melt solid objects, it vaporizes them. The temperature on the day side is literally hot enough to boil metal. Iron from the planet's composition, exposed to this hell, turns into an atomic gas. This vaporized iron is then caught in unbelievably fierce, howling winds and carried toward the permanent night side. And here's where the nightmare takes shape. The area between the day and night side is called the terminator line, a zone of eternal twilight. As the iron gas crosses this line into the relatively cooler night side, it undergoes a phase change. The iron condenses back into a liquid. It forms heavy, metallic clouds, and it falls. This is a world where the atmosphere itself is an endless furnace, and at night, the clouds literally rain molten, red-hot liquid iron. Imagine stepping outside and getting bombarded by millions of searing, heavy droplets of liquid metal. It's a cosmic foundry where the raw materials pour directly from the sky.
Next, we visit a system that sounds like it was ripped straight from a ghost story, Poltergeist and Phobetor. These two desolate worlds orbit a stellar corpse named PSR 1257 plus 12. These names alone should warn you off. They are known as the zombie planets of the cosmos because they orbit a pulsar. Here's the context, and it's a piece of mind-bending history. These were actually the very first exoplanets ever discovered by humanity back in 1992, but they completely baffled astronomers because they shouldn't exist. A pulsar is the incredibly dense, rapidly spinning core of a giant star that has already died in a violent supernova explosion. When a star goes supernova, it obliterates everything in its solar system. Yet somehow, these rocky planets formed from the ashes of that dead star, or they somehow survived the blast. But survival here is a loose term. A pulsar doesn't give off normal, warming sunlight. Instead, as it spins thousands of times a minute, it emits intensely narrow, highly focused beams of high-energy electromagnetic radiation from its poles. It acts like the cosmos's deadliest lighthouse. It's tempting to imagine mutated sci-fi creatures crawling through the radioactive dust of these worlds, surviving against the odds. But the grounded reality is absolute sterilization. There is no visible light on these worlds, just the flickering, harsh, invisible strobe light effect of a cosmic radioactive ghost. The star is a high-powered X-ray machine, systematically ripping apart the molecular bonds of anything that could ever potentially resemble life. It's the ultimate graveyard of the galaxy. Finally, we reach the undisputed champion of our nightmare tour, the hottest planet we have ever found, period. This is Kelt 9b. Its temperature is, quite simply, ridiculous. We're talking about a dayside temperature of roughly 4,300 degrees Celsius. To put that into perspective, our own sun's surface is about 5,500 degrees Celsius. Kelt 9b is a planet that is hotter than the surface of most actual stars in the universe. It orbits a massive, incredibly hot, blue-white Type A star, and it orbits so closely that it takes less than 2 days to complete a year. Because it is so hot, the molecules in its atmosphere cannot hold themselves together. The planet is actively being cooked to death by its own sun.
The massive energy input causes atmospheric escape. The gases are literally boiling off into the vacuum of space. The planet is being blasted apart by the stellar wind, leaving a colossal, glowing trail of hydrogen and helium gas behind it. It looks less like a planet and more like a giant demonic comet bleeding out across the galaxy. This isn't just a world of horror. It's a world whose very existence is a slow, agonizing countdown to total, violent evaporation. When we zoom out and look at the big picture, it's easy to feel a certain kind of cosmic dread. You're teasing yourself with the idea of being shredded by glass winds or cooked in an iron rainstorm. It's almost satisfyingly terrifying, isn't it? But the most profound realization is that these bizarre, violent worlds are not some rare anomaly. They aren't a mistake in the laws of physics. They are the standard reality of the universe. When you look at the massive, ancient timeline of the cosmos, we are just tiny scratches on the face of infinity. We only perceive these worlds as monsters because we happen to be lucky enough to exist in that tiny, stable, miraculous Goldilocks zone of our own quiet yellow star. Our comfort here on Earth isn't the rule, it's the beautiful, incredibly rare exception. The scariest part of all this isn't that a universe of metal rain exists out there in the dark. It's the realization of just how fragile, how isolated, and how miraculous our own tiny blue marble truly is. The universe is a terrifying place, but it's also a place of breathtaking wonder. The more we learn about these extreme worlds, the more they make us appreciate our own home, and the more they drive us to keep looking up into the dark. We are just scratching the surface of what's out there. Stay curious and stay tuned.